Yo, what is up, everybody? It is Archimedes Aizen here, back at it again with the movie special for What If Ichigo Went Against the Regime. Now, pretty much, it's pretty easy to tell. Ichigo would pretty much go against Central 46, starting his own type of force against the Central 46, pretty much taking over and hopefully reforming the system as a whole. So, pretty much, yeah, I don't need to credit anyone in this since nobody helped me with this thumbnail. I mean, not really significantly. But yeah, without further ado, guys, let's start it. So pretty much what would happen is right after Ichigo would come back from the Soul Society, he would then recover the that night. Before the next morning, he would get up, skip school, and he would go to Urahara Shoten. Now, what would happen is once he would get there, he would ask Urahara, is there some way I can get stronger? Like, I've developed the inner hollow. I was wondering if I can come back and train. You got me so far. I was figuring, can you get me any further? So Urahara would be quite surprised. He thought Ichigo wouldn't even come to him in the first place. It just doesn't seem like his character in the first place to like go ask for people's help, which it wouldn't seem like his character since I'm changing it now. So Urahara would say yes. So pretty much, I've seen why am I saying from and so much? But basically, Urahara would have known about Ichigo's hollow reacting during the fight against Byakuya. Basically, his hollow, or he doesn't know what it is. He has a theory that it's actually Zanpakuto, but it's not really proven yet. So he would then say, so you have like a certain entity in your body that's not Zangetsu, right? And Ichigo would say, yeah, he's weird one. You told me that he came from the failures of the the shaft, the process to get my Shinigami powers back, right? Yeah, Haruha would say, yeah, well, about that, we could find a way for you to beat him and get his powers becoming way stronger. So all you need to do is kind of use your own power. Don't focus on what he used. You need to focus on what you used. Like for example, against the fight with Kapachi, you used pretty powerful Getsugas, right? So just focus on your own Getsuga. Don't focus on the Getsuga he used, because he's just a mockery, a mimicry, because that's your Getsuga, not his. So anytime during the fight, just focus on yourself. Mr. Kurosaki, as Ichigo would then realize it. He was thinking of using that thing's Getsuga, but he realized that it was his Getsuga. So pretty much what would happen is Urahara would teach Ichigo the Jinzen technique as he would get into the meditating form. And what would happen next is he would start to meditate. So pretty much he would go into his inner world, and he would see old man Zangetsu for a few minutes, as he would tell old man Zangetsu that he's gonna put down basically the hollow. Alright, I'm back. So the old man would then pretty much respond saying, that's good, Ichigo. Hopefully you'll become powerful enough to achieve your goal of always protecting those you care for. As Ichigo would say, see ya. As he would then sit there and pretty much summon the that thing, the inner hollow. As pretty much particles would start to form in the air, like bleached out particles, as this would start to form that of white Zangetsu. So pretty much Ichigo and Zangetsu would stand there, and white Zangetsu would say, it seems pretty ballsy for you to challenge me to the fight. I was just gonna wait until later on, but hey, I like that. As he would unsheath his pretty much the Zangetsu, as Ichigo would try something. You're not allowed to use that blade. About 5 seconds later, the blade would literally disappear, as Zangetsu would be like, what? After this, Ichigo would then appear by him and say, you're not allowed to use my Getsuga. As he would then swing his blade down, and a pretty powerful Getsuga Tensho would come out of Ichigo's blade, as it would pretty much split, it would cause a scar down the middle of Zangetsu's chest. Now when Zangetsu would recover, he'd realize that Ichigo pretty much figured out that he needs to use his instincts. As Ichigo would then pretty much say, "You're not allowed to use my techniques." As then he would throw, his Shikai, Zangetsu up before then, catching it by the bandages and start throwing it above his head. As then he would, pretty much swing it at, white Zangetsu. As this would pretty much cause like a split between the middle of his face all the way down to his stomach area. As this would pretty much split him in half. As he would just regurgitate himself. And Ichigo would then appear behind him, saying, "You're not allowed to use my Bankai." As Ichigo would then proceed to go Bankai, pretty much using Getsuga, and he would completely like relieve the pressure whenever the pressure starts to crush his bones. Doing Getsugas and Bankai relieves the pressure. So he would release a huge Getsuga, which completely would destroy a few skyscrapers behind White Zangetsu. Now Zangetsu would say, that's good, Ichigo. You really progressed in just a few sentences from that hat and clogs." Before pretty much what would happen is Zangetsu would try to form a Sero, but Ichigo would say, "You're not allowed to do that." As the Sero would just break, and what would happen next is Ichigo would appear behind him with a grim look on his face as he would go before then like grabbing, like pretty much like moving forward at a fast pace, like holding the sword with his right hand before then swinging it, like kind of carrying all the momentum from diving at White Zangetsu, kind of like how Ichigo did in the Hell movie when he beat the antagonist, the first antagonist. I can't really remember his name, he's kind of irrelevant. And he would pretty much just split him and split Zangetsu in half. So after this, he would then like pretty much what would happen is he would like stab White Zangetsu the same way he did in the end of the cannon fight. So Zangetsu would then tell Ichigo, "Good. It seems you really learned how to operate things around here. I like that." As you would say, "But one thing's for sure. You do have access to my abilities, or your abilities, to be honest. And but if I see you even weakening even a decimal, I will literally come out here and stomp your face in. You understand that?" As Zangetsu would start to disappear into the depths of Ichigo's soul. So Ichigo would then, come out of his Jinzen technique, as pretty much what would happen is in the fight, Ichigo's body would have turned into that of a hollow, with the tail, and pretty much going Bankai would have been trouble for Kisuke and Yoruichi to keep up with, and Tessa would have to come down and keep in place. So Ichigo would have pretty much had his mask, his hollow mask, and Kisuke would say, that's good, Ichigo. Now we're gonna train on your reiatsu control. I know it kind of sounds boring, but if you wanna, you should not, in some cases not even go Bankai. Bankai is just like a last resort, and even then there's your holification mask. So let's train. So every Shinigami knows when you're pretty much, like for example, Yoruichi told me about how you try to train, forming the controlling the ball at Kokaku's house, so you can use the spirit bomb, a spirit bomb. I think that's what it's called. The cannon, the spirit cannon, I think it's called. I can't even remember. It's been so long since I watched Bleach. Everything needs to rewatch it sooner or later. But basically, he was talking about Kokaku's cannon, how he pretty much controlled his reishi to, not blow up everything. So he would say, we're kind of going to do something like that. So you know how Ganju told you, just think of a river flowing and there's like a dam keeping it in place. We're going to start, expanding our limits there. So instead of just thinking of a river, think of an ocean. Now, once you think of this ocean, Ichigo would, take a few minutes, and with some failed experience, he would start to just, think of water, a huge ocean amount of water. Then Kisuke would tell him, just imagine putting all of the earth on top of it, like all of your learned techniques, similar like that, on top of that. Now, once this would happen, it would seem like your place, I guess the city is now flooding, But don't worry, that is simply your reiatsu and your techniques forming together in co-alliance. So you can become stronger, and you don't have to use those techniques as often as possible, and you can limit yourself to as little as possible, but still easily win a fight. So the city would start to, in his mind, would start to be submerged in water. But once this would happen, it would just come right back up, and for some reason the city looked completely better. And, or I would say, so you assume the city would keep sinking, right? Well, this time, that's just that a normal, limited mindset person would think. I'm not really good with grammar here. So Kisco would explain, yeah, you did, kind of sink your city in, the ocean, but it managed to float back up. You pretty much controlled your reiatsu enough to make it come back. Your abilities and other techniques like that. By the way, this isn't serious, just think of it as a analogy, Ichigo. But it can actually be a real life example though. But do take this seriously. So he and Kisuke would start doing reiatsu control exercises for the rest of the day, and this would pretty much enlarge Ichigo's pools of reiatsu, or unlock his infinite amount of potential. So pretty much Ichigo's power level would be that of his power level when he fought against Ulquiorra, which would be quite powerful. Like, not the Vassalorde, but the form before that, like his Hollow Mask form. So Ichigo would spend maybe like about 2 weeks training, like how to keep his Hollow Mask, and after that, the whole bout arc wouldn't really happen. Like the bout part where like Urahara gives them a test and all. But like the whole bout arc, it would kind of go the same thing. But Ichigo would have little to no difficulty training, like beating him. Now this would, like the defeat of Jinkaria would set off a motion of events. He'd realize that he needs to get more powerful. Aizen is still out there, so he remembered Ukitake talking about a library where they hold all of the information of Soul Society. So he realized maybe one day he could, one time he should sneak in there, take some like scrolls and learn, trying to get some knowledge about, techniques. So pretty much what would happen is about one day, maybe like a few days after the takedown of Jinkaria and the Vizards coming to offer him training, he would open a Senkaimon, learning the technique from Urahara himself, as he would open the Senkaimon by, aiming his sword at the air before then twisting it, and it would open the Senkaimon gate. Now what would happen next, as he would pretty much walk into the gate, and he would keep walking. Now he would go all the way, completely like in the Senkaimon dimension, separate dimension, and he would walk onto the other side. And on Soul Society, it would be like, pitch black night, as then he would flash step towards the middle into the Serite, completely bypassing the barriers. He would have used one of who would have been snooping around in Urahara's, inventions before he would then take Urahara's reiatsu concealing cloak. So he would take his cloak and, he would put it on, and he realized he felt his reiatsu being kind of sealed towards himself. This is similar to that of Aizen's seal. So that's where Urahara got the seal from, for Aizen. It kept all the reiatsu to himself, obviously. So that's why people can't sense him. So Ichigo would flash step to the Great Library of Central 46, and once he would sneak in, all the other elders would be gone for the day, back to their estates. Ichigo would then flash step in, as he wouldn't be in this huge library. He had about maybe 12 hours before he went a little bit after sunset. It was dark out. All the Shinigami were, most of them were at home. In their barracks, while others were some of the second squad were patrolling the area on their night shift. So Ichigo would then start to go through some books. He'd see some what's after Bankai, and he'd find a book about mastering Bankai, and for some reason there was some things with it. It just didn't correspond with the Bankai he had. Usually what would happen is just he starts to become suspicious. Was Byakuya even right? Did he even have a real Bankai? That's why he was questioning if that was a Bankai on their fight. it wasn't just because the blade was small. It's just because he didn't feel the power of a Bankai. He saw other people's Bankai like Byakuya, and it looked like that old man looked like he was using Bankai, but maybe that was something else. But he felt the power of Bankai, like that short kind of boy of the squad 10. He was using his Bankai, and he felt more power coming from it than his own. So he'd start to like look through all of the, tactics and tricks, and he would realize like how to gain Bankai like, faster. And that's where Urahara gained his theory on the 3-day Bankai, because there was similar, and there's a similar way to gain Bankai in there as well, and that's probably where Urahara got the way of building the doll. So pretty much Ichigo would start to get curious at the kido section. He would start to go in there, and he realized he has been training reiatsu control for a while, so maybe instead of the Zangetsu part, he should start to focus on the kido control, just in case that inner hollow comes back, because the inner hollow can't really use Shinigami techniques. So pretty much he starts to get this huge empty book he has. He would start to write down every technique, every powerful technique. He would probably copy every technique from Hado number 1 to all the way to Hado number 99. Then he would then get like another book and start writing down everything. He would spend about the whole night just writing books down, as then he would put them in his backpack, or his bag, I guess you can say, and he would then flash step out of there. And that would have took him like a long time, like maybe like probably got there around 9 p.m. and that took him about maybe 4 a.m. So he would have flash stepped out of there, opened the Senkaimon for then leaving. Now, pretty much he would then get home and sleep, as he would then hide the books. He would then wake up the next day, and he would go to the mountains of Karakura Town, the mountain area where nobody will be. So pretty much what would happen is once he would get there, he would start to read the book. He would have said Hado number 1, Show, Hado number 4, Byakuya, and start reading through all the Hado list. He likes his structure, so he's gonna go with that first. He already does that a lot, so it's easier to train with that. So he saw this Hado. It was Hado number 63. He saw like Kakaku using it when she came down to like stop Aizen and the rest. So she was like, that should seem pretty cool. He saw like the incantations for Hado number 63, and they seem pretty easy to remember. But he was thinking maybe we should try without it. So he would then aim his hand at the sky, as he would say, Hado number 63, Raikoho. As for some reason, a yellow arc of lightning would escape from his hand, as this was he perfectly did the technique on his first try, which would be quite surprising. Some Shinigami take years to even master that technique, and Ichigo did it in just a few minutes. So it was pretty surprising. After this, Ichigo would then spend about like an hour constantly compressing it, maybe making it so he uses less reiatsu and uses the technique, and then he does it with the incantation, so then he can raise the power, but then still use that same amount he used with no incantation. So he's kind of taking advantage of the incantations, giving it 5 times the power. So pretty much he'll spend maybe the next month training with so he would train all these kidos, and he would go through the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc. I don't really like to go over filler arcs much. So the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc would end with Ichigo beating Muramasa the same way, and still gaining more power and using kido techniques to beat Muramasa. And when he had to fight Old Man Zangetsu, he had no problem working with White Zangetsu, or not as much of a problem as per usual. So he would start to learn more and more, maybe trying to getting suspicious of Old Man Zangetsu, not too much, but he would realize for some reason he worked together better with White Zangetsu, and he realized maybe that's his Zanpakuto. Maybe he was right about, maybe Byakuya was right about him not having Bankai. So pretty much one day he thought he was just gonna go clear the air with Old Man Zangetsu, and maybe Old Man Zangetsu would just admit it. So he would go into his inner world, as Old Man Zangetsu would be there standing on the pole, he would be ready for this conversation, since he is Ichigo's, Quincy's, representation. So of course he has access to Ichigo's mind. So he would then ask Old Man Zangetsu, "Who are you? really. You don't really seem like my Zanpakuto, but you do seem like part of my soul. So I'm confused because when we were fighting Muramasa, I seem to be more in tune with the White Zangetsu than I seem to be with you. So who is he really? So Old Man Zangetsu would tell Ichigo that White Zangetsu is actually his Zanpakuto, and that he himself is the representation of another power. Ichigo would then take a deep breath, processing what he just heard, as he would say, "What power?" Damn, I'm coughing like crazy. But basically, Old Man Zangetsu would say, that of your Quincy powers. Ichigo would be like, so, like Uryu, right? He would say in like a shocked statement, or a shocked tone, or a question. I said statement, it's really a question. The old man would respond, yes, your mother was a Quincy. I'm kind of confused. I understand like why Ishin didn't tell you, but I'm confused why he never even tried to show you who the Quincy's were. But I assume he's pretending to be a human with no knowledge of what Soul Reapers are, right? Ichigo would be like, so Ishin's a Soul Reaper? And Old Man Zangetsu would literally just sit down and he would tell him like all the events of Everything But the Rain. Now if you're wondering how does he even know about Everything But the Rain? You watch his incarnation, so he knows what Yuwatch knows, and Yuwatch knows what Ichigo went through. So yeah, he would just tell Ichigo about how he became a thing, and he would then pretty much tell Ichigo in order for him to have his real Zanpakuto, he would actually have to get an Asuchi. Right now, whatever he's holding, whatever he's wielding, is not of his Shinigami powers, but that of his Quincy powers. And the Hollow Mask is simply you just, attaining your Hollow side. But they can never actually, work together at the same time, really. It's because, the Shinigami part is pretty much blocking the Hollow part because Hollow is poisonous to Quincy. So, pretty much Ichigo would then kind of need to get some fresh air, as he would leave in the world, and he would go outside, or he would already kind of be outside technically, and he would start to walk around, as he'd realize, what if I didn't realize this early? Would I be in the battle and maybe I would have got severely injured, and maybe I didn't realize this. I could have lost the battle, maybe someone, but at least I know this now. I could get completely stronger. So Ichigo would then head over to Urahara Shoten, who would ask him, I need an Asuchi. After this, Urahara would be like, why would you need such thing? Ichigo would say, I need to prove something, a theory of some sorts. I need an Asuchi, like 2, I'd say, just in case. And pretty much Urahara would say, whenever you say Mr. Kurosaki, as we see, Urahara gets the 2 Asuchi as they would head down into the training ground of Urahara Shoten. So once they would get down there, Ichigo would then pretty much go into the Jinzen technique, as he would then hold the 2 Asuchi, and he would start to search for his real Zanpakuto. As what would happen is we'd see from the royal palace, as Owatsu, he's looking down at Ichigo, he says, finally, yes, he's realizing it. All the hints I gave him, it's quite good. Now if you guys are wondering, what hints? Pretty much I kind of changed it a little bit, where Owatsu would I don't know why I'm saying kind of. You would pretty much, why do I keep saying kind of? You would kind of, okay, so he would put reiatsu into his, Ichigo's sword, making him remember those special moments in, like, a Byakuya's fight. In him and Byakuya's fight, he'd realize that Byakuya said it wasn't even a real Bankai. He gave Ichigo the intention, or maybe the idea of going to Central 46, searching for a greater power, learning kido and other Shinigami techniques like that. So pretty much with the help of Ichibei, of course. Yeah, Owatsu don't got no mind controlling abilities or anything like that, but due to his control over Zanpakuto, he doesn't have control over Ichigo's Zanpakuto since it's not a Zanpakuto, but due to the help of Ichibei, he had a chance to actually do that. So, yeah, he would then be waiting for Ichigo to get his real Zanpakuto, as pretty much Ichigo, what would happen is the Suchi, not even be in the Suchi anymore. What would happen is the old man Zangetsu would form from the right blade, and then the hollow would, or the white Zangetsu would form from the left. As pretty much what would happen is he would realize that, you know, Zangetsu, old man Zangetsu is the Quincy representation, while, you know, Zangetsu is the Shinigami representation. So he'd probably, you know, he'd say, you know, those are Zangetsu. As they would start disappearing, and they would form the new blades of the dual blade. So pretty much, he would gain his dual, his dual Shikai, as he would go, he would pretty much, look at it, and it would be beautiful. As he would look around, and for some reason, due to this awakening, the mountains would just shatter. I don't know. It was just like him getting Shikai, and like right after he said like those are Zangetsu's, the mountains would just shatter, because like Ichigo just powers just enormously spikes, like just unbelievably. So what would happen next is Ichigo would go home and he would sleep for the rest of the night. As the next day he would talk with Ishin, and he would tell him that he knows and all, but he doesn't care. He's just gonna go about his business, pretend he doesn't know, and go about his life. So pretty much we're gonna time skip. The Vizars would approach Ichigo, and Ichigo would say, I don't really have an inner hollow technically, but hey, I don't mind training anyway. I do need to train. So he would go over and he would train with the Vizards anytime he can. And we're gonna time skip to the not the recon mission of Okuura and Yami. I didn't really get into that. I just pretty much gave Ichigo more time to train, kind of, focus on himself. So we're gonna we're gonna switch perspective back to Ichigo, as it was night. He was going on his hollow routine, night hollow killing mission, I guess, and he would pretty much sense Grand Fisher, like that, because he remembers Grand Fisher's reiatsu. So that was the guy who literally like killed his mom, or had part in it, since it was actually Yuha, but technically he would still sense the Grand Fisher. So he would then run over to the Grand Fisher, as this wouldn't really cause Ishin and Urahara and Kon to pull up, so it would just be Ichigo. So Ichigo would land in front of the Grand Fisher. I would say, "Oh, Grand Fisher, you have a different look." As the Grand Fisher would be like, "I'm here to kill you, Ichigo Kurosaki." As he would try to, throw a punch at Ichigo with his huge, gigantic hand. As Ichigo would just, lift his sword up, and about like a minute later, he would try to it would look like he blocked the technique, but a few seconds later, pretty much Grand Fisher's hand would burst up in blood, as it would have been cut multiple times. Now, pretty much what would happen next is Ichigo would then disappear right behind Grand Fisher, as Getsuga would have just registered through, you pretty much would have used the Getsuga, and it didn't really go through until he appeared behind Grand Fisher. He would have then sheathed his blade as he was walking away, as pretty much an explosion would occur from the Getsuga, and Grand Fisher's body would fall, and he would fall on his knees before then falling over, disappearing into Reishi particles. He would then walk away, as he would then continue on his hollow hunting mission for the rest of the night. Now the next day, Ichigo would have pretty much been going to school and all, and talking, pretty much still I don't know, he clotheslines I can't remember his pervert friend, but if you guys remember, definitely tell me in the comments. But he would pretty much do what Ichigo does in his daily school life, until he would sense right after school, he'd go around in his Shinigami form, and he would go around killing hollows, until he sensed huge pressure just enter the world of the living, go through a portal almost. So he would then flash step over, and he would appear right in front of that of Okuura and Yami. Huge man with a kind of tannish skin and a hole in his chest with the number, the tattoo of number 10. And he would have black hair, looking almost like monster-like. And he would say, "Oh, you guys kind of looked more like, Grand Fisher, but more evolved. But hey, you guys are hollows. Hollows are hollows, so I don't mind fighting you." As Okuura would say, Ichigo Kurosaki. We were told to come and gain some recon and see if you're just as weak as usual, as Ukuyura would unsheath his blade and clash with Ichigo. Now, pretty much what would happen is Ukuyura noticed that Ichigo had 2 blades. Now, pretty much from the reports from Aizen, Ichigo had 1 blade. So first he was just kind of confused, and he realized that the reiatsu, they pretty much kind of calculated Ichigo's reiatsu into a number, and he realized Ichigo's reiatsu is about 100 times more powerful at least. So Ukuyura realized he wasn't gonna win this until he released. So he would just play around with Ichigo, as he would use his pretty much severely use his Hyoru to try to defend himself against Ichigo's slashes, but Ichigo would still get a few cuts here and there. Ichigo then realized that Ukuyura, for some reason, is hesitant, and he realized that, since he's clashing, he realizes Ukuyura, is weaker than him. So he would then pretty much, put his blades sideways, kind of horizontal and vertical, for then using a Getsuga Jujusho, and like a crossblade Getsuga. Now, this would go right for Ukuyura, as at the last moment, Ukuyura would then use a Sero to pretty much counteract the blast, thinking it would cancel out, but it would just lower the damage that Ukuyura would take. So once the explosion would then, like the smoke would then, leave, and the explosion would, be gone, Ukuyura would then be seen with a wound on his chest, as he would be taking deep breaths. He said, You're good, Ichigo Kurosaki," he would say in that calm tone, as he would then say, I had to use all of my iron skin to even defend against that attack, and use a Sero. As about 5 seconds later, Urahara and Yoruichi would appear right behind Ichigo, and he would say, "You're good, Ichigo." Ichigo would say, yeah, I'm fine. As Ukuyura then, would realize he's gonna lose, and Yami, being like egotistical, would run towards Ichigo, throwing a punch, as Ichigo would say, "It's always the brutes." As he would then flash step behind Yami, as his arm would then, 2 of his arms would then be cut off, and then his slash to his neck would then be shown, almost going cutting off his head. But Ichigo held back a little bit. He wants pretty much Yami to live, so he just wants to do insult to injury at that point. He's just Ichigo's kind of being a bitch in battle, not like a scared bitch, but like a Black Air Force energy type. So Ichigo would see that Ukuyura would open a portal, and he recognized this from for some reason he just instinctively knows it, obviously apart from his white Zangetsu. So pretty much Ukuyura would then kick Yami into the Garganta, and he would go in, and Yoruichi says, "Are you scared?" Ukuyura would say, "I'm not scared, I just don't want to fight." Kisuke Urahara, Yoruichi Shihoen, and Ichigo Kurosaki all going out, and I would have to release, which isn't really suitable here. As you would say, "Well, goodbye for now, Ichigo Kurosaki, but you'll see soon enough, the people you fight for won't really, you won't really fight for them once you find out." As Urahara would, widen his eyes, as he's realizing that Ichigo might, realize what's happening and start to go against everything, which will be happening in this What If. So Ichigo would then, kind of be confused on what he said, and later that day he would be, told by the Vizards, kind of how they got dealt with, how they were pretty much going to be executed, but Urahara saved them, and he says who are the powers in Souls and Sarite, and the Vizards will start to explain to Ichigo that the powers are the Central 46. They're a group of 46 elders, and there's 40 elders and 6 judges, and they choose everything. Hell, if they wanted to, they could have you executed. But due to Yamamoto's insistence on you wanting to help, they pretty much been hesitant on the decision. Ichigo would say, "What? You're telling me these people, whenever they're reinstated, can just choose to kill me whenever they feel like it?" And the Vizards would just all nod their heads. They say, "Don't you guys want to, do something about this? I mean, weren't you exiled for 100 years? Who knows, maybe we can spark some change. The Central 46 aren't yet. If we rally all of the civilians, right, we would have the majority." So the Vizards would start to, discuss among themselves, as they would, start a plan. what would happen is they would pretty much start a revolution, or a I guess a regime change, and pretty much this would start subtle. They would tell Ichigo that for some reason that badge of his controls his reiatsu. So they realized they should do a process where Ichigo would be permanently dead, and he'd just be in the gi guy, or since that's already what's happening. Ever since he became a Shinigami, he was just in a gi guy. So Ichigo would have the shocked face of that, the thumbnail, of the render, and pretty much what would happen is Hachi would make a kido technique that would pretty much cause Ichigo to kind of sort of die, and this means the badge is useless. Ichigo would just go into the special gi guy, the reiatsu concealing gi guy, and pretty much from we'll switch perspectives to that of Tokinada's. Tokinada's made the special badge, and he realized once Ichigo Kurosaki came along, he would have to control Ichigo. But something went off. The badge was destroyed. This either meant that Ichigo died, or Ichigo destroyed it. So it probably thought Ichigo destroyed it, and kind of died at the same time, since he notices his human body, or the gi guy, was destroyed as well. So he realizes that Ichigo is probably going to, come for Central 46. So what would happen is he would send about 200 assassins after Ichigo with the power of the Sonaishiro clan, which is one of the strongest clans of all of Soul Society. So pretty much what would happen is he would call, like I said, 200 assassins from the Omnitsukido, from the clan, and from other clans. They all had their personal hatred for Ichigo, and they were pretty much corrupt. So pretty much they would, he would make a plan. They would then attack the Vizard warehouse and hopefully deal with the other Vizards, and try to have Hikone become the Soul King, which is his long-term plan, of course. So we'll do a time skip for about like one day, and Ichigo would be there. Ichigo would tell his dad he's gonna live at the warehouse from now on, just in case people at Soul Society realize what's happening and will come after him. So Ichigo would then gather his team of his friend Uryu, or Hime, and all his other it would have been just Chad, Uryu, or Hime. They would come with him, and they would kind of live in the warehouse with Ichigo. So pretty much they would all Orihime would learn how to use her Shun Rika better, how to realize that it doesn't actually heal people, it rejects events. Uryu would learn how to use his Volstagen from his dad, and he would start to train more. He wouldn't just kind of be stagnant throughout the whole series. So he would almost be as strong as, he would start to get as strong as possible right before he learns his Shrift. So he's getting there. And when it comes to Chad, he would have learned the power of his El Diablo, I think it's called, the white, and with the right arm with all the reddish. I think it's his left arm. So pretty much he would have learned how to use his full bring much easier. And just in general, everyone in the regime change force, I guess you can say, will learn to get stronger. So what would happen is they would pretty much hear of the new captain, the third captain. So all the Kasumiyoji events would start to fall in, but this time they would still protect the Kasumiyoji princess, and they would head over to Soul Society. This would be the perfect time. So what would happen is they realized that Ichigo's protecting Kasumiyoji princess, and they would mark him as rogue, since you're not supposed to. It was at that time they were pretty much trying to retrieve her, and so then the Vizards would be located. So they would realize that they're alive, and they would start to send assassins. Now pretty much this would be Tokinada's plan. He would offer Shinigami as a kind of a gesture of courtesy, co-aligning goals, as you would say, and those assassins would be on that mission to hunt him down. So they would pretty much be in the Rukongai district. They would have made it to Soul Society, and what would happen is they'd be in Kukaku's house, as suddenly 200 spiritual pressures, I guess the amount of entities would start to appear around them, as Kukaku would say, it seems somebody's attacking us. How about you guys don't go deal with it, alright? She would put in her smoke, her pipe, as Ichigo would then get up, and he would kind of grow an angry face, since it was kind of annoying that these people, they're that corrupt to send assassins after them. As pretty much what would happen is he would, go into his bankai, as he would, put on his reiatsu concealing cloak, which he still kept, as he would slowly go outside and, go on the mountain that was next to Kukaku's house, or near it, as he would start to scope out and mark all 200 assassins. So he'd start to go down and slowly take down assassins from assassins, about 25. Shinji would then come up to the mountain, the same area where Ichigo is, and says, I'll distract them, alright? So Shinji would then use his Shikai, as he would tell Ichigo, you can strike now. Ichigo would then run behind an opponent, but the opponent would keep going forward, thinking someone's running at him, but it turns out it was behind. So Ichigo would have go to slice him, but he still would have been looking where's the sword coming from, because his illusions are, he's under Sakanade's illusions. So Ichigo would pretty much take out the rest of the assassins, as he would leave one alive, as he would say, so who hired you? As the assassin would stay quiet, as pretty much what would happen is he would, put his blade against one of his non-vital places where there's no organs, right below the lung. He would barely touch the lung, as he would stab it, and he would infuse a little bit of Getsuga, just a little bit, and he would say, I said, who hired you? And pretty much what would happen is Ichigo would explain, so look, I stabbed you through the bottom of your lungs, so now in a few minutes your lungs are gonna rupture, and if you don't tell me, you're gonna die a very slow and painful death. But we can pretty much, not kill you if you do tell us. So this being one of the low-ranking ninjas, or medium-ranking ninjas, like that of the lieutenant power level, he would then give up, and he would say, all right. So we were hired by Tokinada Sonayusho from the Sonayusho clan. And pretty much Shinji, hearing this, would recognize and think, Sonayusho clan were one of the 5 great clans until recently all the clan members were assassinated and Tokinada became head of the clan. And pretty much Ichigo would say, so this guy's one of the supporters of Central 46, right? And Shinji would say, yeah, pretty much. As Ichigo would say, thanks for the information, as he would stab him through the heart, as he would then take the map, the area of the location. Every assassin had this, just in case, they had every new location, every old location, just in case they needed to go. If they're on the run, they would go back there for safety. So pretty much Ichigo and the rest of the Vizards would head over there, and Ichigo would pretty much go there, and they would, bust in the house, as they would then see Tokinada and Hikone. Now, if you're wondering, how is Ichigo gonna win? Number one, it's been stated that Ichigo is stronger than Hikone, and he has all the support of the Vizards. So what would happen is, pretty much Shinji would tell everyone to get away, as he's planning to fight Hikone. And pretty much they would, Ichigo would then grab speed blitz Tokinada before grabbing him by the face and sending him flying pretty far away to a suitable battlefield, as all the Vizards would follow him, because they know Tokinada is maybe a high captain class fighter. It's going to be very hard for Ichigo to fight him by alone, and Shinji told them to go, since he has something to do with Hikone. So what would happen is Ichigo would land, as Tokinada would say, that's a nice attack. It's not, you're very interesting, Ichigo Kurosaki, that you're half Quincy, part Quincy, part Shinigami, and part human, and also part hollow. You're almost part of every race. You're almost you're exactly like Hikone. You're literally a suitable candidate to be Soul King. As Ichigo would be sulking, what is the sulking? As, Tokinada would pause for a second and say, it's the sulking. It seems Kisuke Urahara didn't tell you what the sulking is. No matter, I shall tell you. The sulking is the reason why you're breathing and why this land isn't corrupted. The sulking is the linchpin. That he would then start to tell Ichigo the story of the 5 ancestors and how they sealed the Soul King, and how those 5 censors made all the 5 great clans, and how one of them is residing in Soul Palace away from other people. And he said, tell them that Kisuke Urahara and Sosuke Aizen are from those 2 clans, are from that clan. So was a pretty huge clan, so that's why Kisuke and Aizen look nothing alike. So there was many genetics in there. I mean, like many genetics, like those of like blonde hair, those of brown hair, those pretty much. It's kind of hard to explain. If you want me to go in depth about it, just I can make a separate video on it. So pretty much what would happen is a few minutes later, it would take a while for the visor to catch up since Ichigo pretty much palm faced him pretty far. So Ichigo would then see the other visors come along, and pretty much what would happen is Ichigo would then put his two blades together as he would output his reiatsu for then using a Getsuga. Now what would happen is Kensei would come behind Tokinada before using hitting him with his knuckles, as this would cause an explosion, and Tokinada would be blasted into the Getsugas. And then after that, Rose would then use his Shikai. I actually can't remember the Shikai's name. If I ever do, would have known it was like Rose. No, not Rose. It's Rose. I think. No, not really. I think it's the person with like the chain. Not the chain, but like the music type weapon. And I think it's Rose, but like the blonde hair. So he would then wrap Tokinada in his Shikai, as then he would throw him towards Love. Love would then get out his huge hammer and then pretty much send Tokinada flying into a mountain. Now Ichigo would be there on the other side, going there, as he's gonna be ready. Now just instinctively, his blade would form into that of his Bankai. Now if you're wondering, like, he didn't really have to train for it. Number one, like, it didn't take Ichigo that long to get his Bankai, like his real one. So Ichigo would then instinctively put his blades together, as then he would then go and use his classic split in half with his Bankai ability, and he would split Tokinada in half. Now, when they went back to the Soul Society, they would see the first division pretty much converging on Shinji. So what would happen is Shinji was like, they can sense his Bankai, and what would happen is Kensei would tell him to stop, and pretty much Ichigo would be like, "What are you talking about?" Kensei would then start to explain that Shinji's Bankai is now in play, and he would start to explain that Shinji Bankai doesn't distinguish from ally and enemy, and that right now he told us all to leave so he can be alone. He doesn't want to have us fight each other. He would then explain pretty much all of Shinji's Bankai's abilities, and he would say, "We'll wait here from now. We can't really do anything until it's deactivated." So we'll switch over to Shinji's perspective. Hikone would start spawning all of these hollows, and pretty much what would happen next is Shinji would use his Bankai, have all the hollows start fighting each other, then all the hollows would band together and pretty much fight Shinji. So pretty much he would use his Bankai, all the hollows, just like he planned, would go against Hikone. So wait, did I say fight against Shinji? I'm tripping. All the hollows would fight against Hikone. Sorry about my talking at this point. I've kind of been recording for a while. So pretty much Shinji would send all the first division coming, and Yamamoto himself. He's like, "Oh my god, I'm about to fight Yamamoto. Like, Jesus, I might die. Like Ichigo and the rest of the visors the rest of his friends can't come help him." And I went from first perspective to third perspective so fast. But he's like, Shinji can't even can't receive help because he's still in his Bankai. So pretty much he'd realize he's pretty screwed unless he released his Bankai. So what happened is he would start to think of a plan. He's like, he's gonna have Yamamoto fight against Hikone. He would then pretty much what would happen is he would cause Yamamoto in his illusion to use his Bankai, and that thing is hot. Zanka no Tachi, no chill whatsoever. So all the other division, the first division members would be forced to push away, as Yamamoto and Hikone would start to fight. So what happened is Hikone would slap Yamamoto, since Hikone was stated to be stronger than Ichibe. Ichibe is stronger than Yamamoto, and yeah. So Hikone would unfortunately beat Yamamoto, but this would give enough time for Shinji to run away, and pretty much what would happen is Ichigo and the rest of the Vizards would band up together, beat Hikone before them, then go to all the Rukongai districts. I'm kind of going fast here, so forgive me if I don't go into details. So he would then go to all of the districts in Rukongai and band all the people together. We'd have hundreds of thousands of souls, like, Rukage citizens coming banding together with all the sticks. Then pretty much what would happen is they would then break into one of the Central 46's supplies. They would steal all the Asuchi, and pretty much what would happen is they would take over Soul Society itself with Ichigo as its commander. Now, what's happening next is, what would happen is after Ichigo, he would be sitting down on the resting bed in one of the rooms in the first division which he took over. After wondering who joins him, who dies. So seventh division Koromura, he kind of gets murked. Unfortunately, he's more of a supporter with Yamamoto, who would never join Ichigo if anything like that would have happened. He's more of like he doesn't understand. He's kind of like the lesser Mitch. He can't even think about the world would happen if it's not what it currently is at that moment. Then another person who would join him wouldn't join him, or would be some of you would, I think, Soifan, but with a little convincing from Yoruichi, Soifan wouldn't really mind, and pretty much Ichigo would tell her that you can still have your Omnitsukido. You take a lot of pride in that, don't you? And pretty much don't worry, you'll have more power than you were already having. So Soifan would have been fine. Now the next captain that wouldn't obviously agree with this is who wouldn't agree with this? Byakuya would be fine with it. Byakuya owes Ichigo a debt of gratitude since he helped him and Rukia's relationship. So Rukia, Renji, Byakuya, all the Kuchi clan, not like the Kuchi clan itself, but like Byakuya being head of the Kuchi clan, it would be with Ichigo. And then Unohana would be Ichigo, Ukitake, Kiraku, Toshiro. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah, I don't think I missed anything else. I'm kind of like just going slower so I can. Who's the 8th squad captain? Is there an 8th squad captain? Yeah, there is. Oh yeah, Mayuri would get murked. On number 9, Uryu was still mad at Mayuri. He didn't get the chance to even kill him. And honestly, about the other people experimented on, the Rokage citizens would make a vote and they would have him arrested and thrown back into the maggot's nest, and all the other Shinigami that were locked there would be released. Why should there be Shinigami locked up in there for something the crime they didn't even commit yet? It was like the whole the probable crime predicting algorithm is because you were thrown in jail for stuff you didn't even do yet. So they were all released and they joined Ichigo immediately, and yeah, they lost all their violent tendencies since they felt they were being abused. So obviously they'll do anything to feel their rights. So what would happen is once Ichigo just finally had a long day and a long night, he'd be sitting in his bed and out of nowhere a portal would start to open. Now this would be revealed none other than Sosuke Aizen, and he would say, Ichigo Kurosaki, I like your I liked what you did to this place so far. It's very surprising how you took this place over in one day with your moving words that convinced everyone to join you. Oh, great Mr. Kurosaki. But we both have the same goal, I assume, right? You do know the Zero Division is gonna come after you later, sooner or later. Don't really stay relaxed. So don't worry, I have a plan for that. Now, how about we for now join forces as we have a common goal, and let's forget our past, even though you obviously seem to know about my involvement in your birth, and now that you obviously wield your real Zanbakuto, you might finally be reaching the potential of what I want you to be as my future project, since you are my project, and you can get plenty strong. You have unlimited potential. That's why I chose you. People who have part Quincy Shinigami Hollow, they have a special ability that nobody else has, which is why they're so special. People like Hikone, which you just fought, or at least your associates have, they have unlimited potential, and they have the potential to have unlimited reiatsu, or immeasurable. I know myself would get on my ass if he ever saw me saying infinite reiatsu, but Pretty much she would say, that's why I want you to, wants us to join us together. I won't be under you and you won't be under me. It's kind of just like cooperation. Our ideals won't have us working for either, but if we're working together, then it'll be easier for both of us. As Ichigo and Aizen would have, kind of agree. And what would happen is Ichigo would kind of had a coexisting between Arrancars. Now, other hollows that weren't cleansed, they would be cleansed and they would be brought over, and the balance would be completely changed. Now, what would happen is not the balance; it would be changed for the positive. Now, if you don't know what you watched it, he killed all the hollows and absorbed them to himself. This destroyed the balance, but now they're changing it for the better. So it would stay equal almost forever. So they would then, pretty much what would happen is Ichigo and Aizen's forces, they would go into the Zero Squad, the Soul Palace. They would pretty much just whoop ass, and they would, keep the Soul King there as a linchpin. Now, whenever Yhwach came, I mean, it's not hard to guess what would happen. They would beat Yhwach, just like, canon, and they would have more, all the citizens, they would have Shining, they would have Zanpakuto, they would each have their own power. They would be all, together. It would be more cooperation, more, trust in the higher power, I guess you can say. So they would have easily put a spirited defense against the Quincy, so which would have led to the downfall, of course. But yeah, that'll be the end of this What If. The ending of this What If would pretty much be Ichigo and the rest of the world in peace and coexistence, and Ichigo would still have his his family, Kazui or Hime, and yeah, everything else would play out together when it comes to relations. And without further ado, guys, have a good day. 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 Have a good day.